Hi everyone, my name is Codie-lyn Kahler and I'm a diamond from the great state of Ohio. And today I'm going to share with you a topic that's pretty close to my heart. And I got a couple questions for you to start. So have you ever thought maybe you've lost your why for doing Young Living or for your business? Or maybe you've thought, what I do doesn't really matter. Sharing with people, teaching people to be healthy, nobody really cares. It doesn't matter. Or maybe you've wondered, am I really making a difference? Well, today I want to share with you a topic called generational change, changing the foundations of our families. I want to share with you our story and then talk about the future and how we are not stuck with the genes that we've been given and how that impacts the future generations. Okay, so hang with me. I'm a yellow diamond and I've got a smidge of green when it comes to science and stuff that I love. And today I'm going to talk about science. So do not click off just because I'm talking about science, because I promise I will make it easy to understand. Okay, let's dive in. Okay, so I want to first tell you our story. If you don't know me very well, you've probably never heard my story before. Feel free to message me and I'll send you a link to our Vaxxed video, give you more details. So we got started with Young Living in 2012. Prior to that, I had our youngest son was very sick. He was vaccine injured, and we were looking for alternative ways to kind of deal with some of the side effects of the medications he was on. Before that, our oldest son, Gavin, was a very sick baby. He had all kinds of stuff happening all the time. And I went from a very sick baby to a healthy baby that then became very sick. And I was stuck in this cycle of fear and believing that the worst was going to happen all the time. And in fact, my family called me the walking pharmacy because I had to carry bags of medication around for my youngest son just to keep him breathing. And it wasn't a very cool time. It was a very stressful time. It was a time when I felt very out of control, that what I said didn't make any difference in the health of my family, and that I felt really powerless. And so when I started in with Young Living in 2012, I started to get my power back. And that felt really good to me, to be able to make decisions, to be able to do some research and know that what I was researching and getting answers to and then putting into practice was making an actual change in my family. And so I got to watch this unfold from me seriously being the crazy medical woman who went to the doctor all the time and took my kids to the doctor all the time, to being this woman that really trusted her own intuition, who felt empowered to do research and make good decisions for my family. And so over this period of years, I've got to see this transition that happened. And what I realized within probably the last 6 months is that the changes that we made are having a lasting impact. So I want to share with you about my son. So Owen, he was very sick, like I mentioned. He was struggling to breathe all the time. He had a vaccine injury that caused lung damage and immune damage. And so he was always sick, always at the doctor. We're talking multiple times a month, and had to go to the hospital by squad, all these really yucky things. And when all of this stuff was happening, it was tragic for him at that time. But now that we are 7, 8 years out from switching over to a healthy lifestyle, he is forgetting a lot of the stuff that happened. He doesn't remember hardly any of those really bad times. In fact, the only thing he remembers is going to the hospital by squad. And so I got to thinking, the changes that we've made have made such an impact on him that he doesn't remember any of that bad stuff. And I got to thinking, he doesn't know life with medications, yet he was on tons of them before. And so I started thinking this through more. What does that look like in the big picture? Because there's a lot of things that we don't even have in our home now that were just staples before. And my kids don't even know what they are. They wouldn't know how to take it if you gave it to them or somebody suggested it to them. And it's just a very different lifestyle than what we had previously. And so when I partnered this revelation I've been having in our own family with what I know about science, it just really sunk in and gave me a renewed passion to continue doing what I'm doing. Because before, when I first started with Young Living, my why was to get my family healthy, to get into a rhythm of trusting our intuition and doing research and becoming healthy. And then my why changed to, I want to share with other people. I want to help them to be empowered so that they can make good decisions for themselves. But when you've been doing this for a while, you go through dry seasons when you just feel like, does anybody really even care what I'm doing? Nobody's listening. Everybody's already heard about oils. Nobody cares, right? I know you guys understand that because you've all been through it. And so I was going through this season of kind of, and then this revelation started sinking in. And so I'm going to share with you a little bit about epigenetics and why this has given me a renewed passion to move on into the future. So I'm going to break out my handy dandy DNA strand. Yes, I made this today just for you guys. So remember, I'm going to break down and make it easy. Don't be scared because I'm talking science. Okay, so this is a strand of DNA, right? It's made of two little blue strands here. These are sugar phosphates, and they're kind of the backbone. And it looks like a twisty ladder. You guys remember science class? You've seen this before. And these little crossbars here are made of 4 different compounds. They're either adenine, thymine, guanine, or cytosine. And they're like 2 pieces that go together. If you've ever had any type of genetic testing done or any of those ancestry type tests done, and you look at the raw data, it's just a bunch of A, T, G's, and C's, and a whole bunch of different combinations. And so we are made up of DNA. Each of our nuclei have DNA in them. And our DNAs look like this, okay? And this tells us what we're gonna look like, the kind of person we're gonna be. And we're given this information from our parents when we're born. And so the interesting thing about DNA is that the DNA in a liver cell and the DNA in a brain cell are exactly the same. Yet when they're in the liver, they know what to do. That's different than when they're in their brain and they know what to do. And so our body is so intricate and amazing that it knows what to do based on where it's at. And so researchers had been doing a lot of study on the human genome. They found that there's 25,000 genes that have been identified through the Human Genome Project. And they thought they had a pretty good understanding. But they were a little bit wrong because they used to believe that we were stuck with whatever genes that we have. So if our parents passed on to us a set of crappy genes like cancer or Alzheimer's or diabetes or any of those things, then we were stuck. If generation after generation before us had all died of heart disease, then we're probably going to die of heart disease too, right? That's what we believed to be the truth. But now, because of epigenetics, we know that that isn't the truth anymore. So instead of these genes actually telling us how our life's going to go and what's going to happen to our body, they found that it's actually chemicals, and they're called chemical switches, that live along these double strands. And these chemicals will tell the gene what to do and how to do it. And the fascinating thing about this is we can change those. We can tell it to do something different. So let's say we have a gene for heart disease or something yucky like that. Well, maybe it's switched on when we get it from our parents, but with proper diet and nutrition and lifestyle and taking care of our bodies, we can switch that off so that it never has to present. And then we pass that off switch onto our children when we have children. And so we can make a positive change to our DNA. And so it's pretty cool if you think about it, that we are not stuck to what our genes are. That if we are given a really bad set of genes, then we don't have to be stuck with that moving forward. And so I love epigenetics because it really shows us some hope. So I want to tell you a quote that was from a scientist's name. His last name is Girdle. And he said, epigenetics is proving we have some responsibility for the integrity of our genome. We are responsible. We have been given this set of genes, but we are responsible for making positive changes that have an impact on those genes that we then pass forward. Now, they did some studies with Holocaust survivors. to prove some of this. And they found that the descendants of Holocaust survivors had a much higher stress response, and that this much higher stress response was passed on to multiple generations. And even though those people hadn't lived through that very stressful time, they had a higher stress response. They had a higher incidence of PTSD, even though they didn't even live through it. And that's because the genes of their grandparents were changed because of that stressful response, and they were passed down to their children and then to their children. What's really interesting with epigenetics is that they found that it doesn't just pass on 1 or 2 generations, it actually passes on up to 3 and 4 generations. And so a change that you're making now can show up 4 generations later and still have a significant impact in that individual. And so when I got to thinking about this, I realized sometimes we're making small changes now that we think are pretty insignificant, but we're really planting seeds that can start to bloom anytime between now and 4 generations from now. When we talk about leaving a legacy for our families, it could be, some people think of a financial legacy or that they've done so much with their life. But in the reality, just doing the everyday, taking care of your body, teaching your children to take care of their body, empowering them to do research and make good decisions for their family and for their life, those things will leave a lasting legacy because that will be seen up to 4 generations away in the DNA of your relatives. That's pretty powerful. That's what I call generational change. And so I'm not in this for short-term change. I'm in this for long-term change. I'm in this for the legacy that will be left for the people that I help through this process. So I want to give you a couple other examples of this because I know some of you may be able to relate to these. So one example of epigenetics in action would be individuals who smoke. So let's say a grandparent smoked a lot, and their DNA was changed. They passed that on to their child. Their grandchild actually has, they're more likely to become obese and smokers because of the fact that their grandparents smoked. And you can look at this as addiction too. When you have one family member that's addicted, chances are that their children and their children are going to be more susceptible to being addicted because that DNA has been changed, the switches have been changed, and it is passed on. But in the positive, think this through. If you are making a positive change in teaching your family to eat healthy, right? In our family, we've gotten rid of gluten because none of us can tolerate it. We have celiac. And so we've gotten rid of that. We're the first generation to do that. And so I know in our family, this is going to make a significant impact to come. So yes, it may be hard to make that change right now, but I'm making a positive health change moving forward. Everything that you put on your body, that you breathe in your lungs, and that you consume by your mouth are things that can make a change to your DNA. The scents that you have around, the chemicals that you have around that you're using in your home, all of those can have an impact on your DNA negatively. Or you can choose to make a positive impact on your DNA by getting rid of the junk and educating people how to do that, how to live a toxin-free lifestyle, how to be healthy, what natural products we can use to move forward. So as I started realizing this, I got a new passion lit underneath of me to share, not just because I love the oils and I want to tell people about it, but to share because I want to see generational change for generations to come, up to 3 and 4 generations. How exciting is that? I won't be around, but you know what? Other people will be, and they'll get to see the impact of the seeds that we planted now. And that's an awesome thing to think about. You can make a lasting impact in the lives of a family. Maybe you are talking with someone and they've never heard about natural living. Maybe they have just been so into the commercial life that it hasn't even crossed their mind. And let's say you make contact with them, you plant some seeds, you share information with them, and all of a sudden they start making changes. That one meeting with them that one step forward that you're helping them with is going to be profound. So when we're doing this, we're not just sharing with people to just share. We're sharing with people to change lifestyles. And I really get what Gary's mission was when he says he wanted to get oils in every home. It's not just about getting oil physically in every home. It's about empowering people to understand why it's important to be able to make those decisions to have them in their home and to see that change move forward. Gary was all about this type of change. He was all about impacting generations, not just doing it because you want a paycheck, right? That's not why I do Young Living. Yes, the perks are really nice. Check out the compensation plan and the income disclosure statement. But it's not about that. It's about empowering people. Last year in my video, I said, I'm a mom on a mission. Well, it's true. I'm a mom on a mission to empower others for generational change. And you can do the same thing. It's not hard. You don't have to travel around the world to make change. You can talk to your neighbor. You can talk to the lady at the checkout. You can talk to somebody at the gym. You can talk to the bus driver of your kid's bus. Like, it doesn't take much to change a life. And that's why I do Young Living. That is why I want to share with people and why I have this passion ignited again. It's not just because we love these products. These products are amazing, but it's about so much more than that. And I encourage you to think about how your life has changed since you've been in Young Living. For some of you, it may be a very short time and you may not have seen much change yet. For those of you who have been in Young Living for a very long time, I encourage you to look back and see how far you've come, especially if you feel like you've lost your why. If you feel like you don't know what to do anymore. Do you want to share with people? Do you not want to share with people? Go back and look and see how different your life is now than it was before and make a list of it. And then post that up where you can see it, because those are positive changes that you made for your family. Talk to your children. See what changes you've noticed in them. See what things they don't even remember anymore. I'm not going to mention brand names, but there's some stuff that my kids used to get all the time that we used to get at the drugstore, and they don't even know what it is anymore. And it's funny, it's laughable now because they just have no clue. It's like it never even existed. And to me, that's just so exciting because I hated that we had to use all that junk before. There's better options when you empower yourself and you make that generational change. And one other thing that I found so interesting in doing the research for this, and this was brand new to me, and I get excited when I see some of this research for the first time. They were saying with epigenetics that the diabetes epidemic that we have now and the obesity epidemic that we have now, that it may not just be about the lifestyle. A significant portion of it is, but it may not be about the lifestyle. It may be about what happened a couple generations ago. And it may be worthy of our time to go back and look at what was happening a couple generations ago to see if something could have been encoded. And you know what? They are. A whole bunch of researchers are starting to look back at what happened previously to see if that has altered the lifestyle of the people now. So can you imagine what it would be like in 40 years from now, 50 years from now, when people say, man, we went from really unhealthy people to really healthy people and something happened. Let's go back and figure out what it was. And you know what they find? They find that you and I made a difference. That you and I started this radical generational change, that we started sharing a healthier lifestyle, and we started giving people hope and empowering them to make better choices and getting the junk out of their life. And we've empowered them, and all of a sudden, we're not so unhealthy anymore. We're not leading the world in unhealthy lifestyles and diabetes and all these horrible diseases, that we're actually teaching other people that there's a better way, that how we can do this. And so I want to encourage you, if you are in that dry season when you're just like, look back. And look back at your family. I know in my family, when they have you fill out the little form at a doctor's office and it says, if you have a family history of A, B, C, whatever, and you check all the little boxes, and then you go into the doctor's office and they ask you about those. Well, I had to check a lot of those boxes. We've had a family history of a lot of really nasty things. And I had one doctor say, "Wow, you've just got it all, don't you?" I'm like, yeah, unfortunately, I do. That's not good. So look back at your family history and look at those things that you want to have a change in and start moving forward. Maybe you're not ready to share with others that change yet. Maybe you're still in that season when you need to make that change for yourself. So sit down and make a list of those things that you want to change for generations to come in your family, that you don't want them to say that every person in my family has died of this, right? And write it down. And maybe that's your goal. Your goal is to focus on how you can make positive changes to make that go away for your own family. And then when you make those steps forward, then you share that with someone else. Because honestly, this information is great for you, but it's kind of selfish if we keep it to ourselves, right? If we're just thinking about ourselves and our own family, it's a little bit selfish. And I'm gonna guilt you into some of this because that's how I got started sharing. I had to give myself a guilt trip because I thought, if I had information that could help someone else and I didn't share it with them, I'm not sure I could live with myself. So I encourage you, if you make a positive change in your family, share it with someone else. You may not have to share with tons of people, but share with someone else and give them hope, help to empower them, and then see what happens. But I have a feeling the snowball effect is going to take place. And as you start sharing with one or two people, it's going to turn into a whole lot of people. And it's going to feel pretty daggone good to see the change that you're making in all of these people's lives just because you planted a seed for generational change. Okay, guys. That's all I've got for you today. If you have any questions, I will take a few questions here. So go ahead and put them in the comment section. As you can tell, I am a bit of a science nerd, and that's okay. I mean, it takes all kinds, right? And I love to share about science. And so if you like that, feel free to follow me. I will also try to upload this on YouTube for anyone that's hearing impaired so that you can watch the replay and have closed captioning on that. And it'll be a shareable link. So come back here and I will put it in the description of the class if you're looking for that link. And I'm not seeing any questions yet, so let me give it just another minute if anyone has questions. I really appreciate you all hopping on and watching my video today. And I'm not seeing any. Okay. Thank you so much for joining me. Have an awesome evening. Be sure to go on and watch all the other amazing information from the diamonds that are sharing, and don't just take the information in, but remember to actually put it into practice, because sometimes we get stuck just listening and taking it all in and absorbing it, but then we don't do anything. So make sure that you take action with whatever you're doing, whatever resonates well with you. Put a plan together for 2019 to put it into practice, whatever you've learned through this session of 12 Days of Diamonds. All right, have an awesome evening. I'll talk to you later.